Do you ever sit back and think, why is nostalgia so amazing? And I don't mean the obsessiveness. I don't mean the, gosh, I miss these days. And I mean, that's fine. That's a little nostalgic. But why is it important? And why do we love when nostalgia comes into play? And I'll tell you what I mean. So I'm sitting here, it's Tuesday. I'm doing this totally live, and I'm just going to pop this right on up when I'm done, just because I'm thinking about it. And it just felt like it. And it's raining today. I don't know if you can tell. It's like it's raining out. It's chilly. It just has that really good, like, sort of holiday vibe. And I just kind of finished up my work day. And for some odd reason, I think it was my shirt. Like, I think it was this shirt, actually. So this was my son's shirt, but he outgrew it. So this is like some old, like, 90s stuff, right? You had Hey Arnold on here. You'll see some things on here. There's also Rugrats on here somewhere. See? Wait. Ren and Stimpy is on here. If I keep pulling this up, I'm not going to have any clothes on. So I have to be really careful. Courage the Cowardly Lion. And not Hey Arnold. Well, yeah, that's all part of that. And so I was sitting there, and I don't even know what made me think of it. I really have no idea. But I glanced down and I was like, gosh, I remember when I realized, first of all, I was almost mortified because I was like, oh, I've turned into my parents. I've turned into the people that I thought, oh my God, please stop telling me that you walk 2.5 miles to school every day in the snow and yada, yada, yada. You're before clock. And you're like, oh my God. And then I realized, oh my gosh, now I get it. Now I really honestly get it. And I was sitting there and I thought, I remember, another reason this came up is I was flipping through the channels yesterday, I think on Netflix, and a Charlie Brown Christmas, a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving came on. And I was like, oh, I remember that, right? And I think, at least for me, even though I had a rack of trauma in my life, cartoons, TV, one of my shows that I would watch all the time was Three's Company. It was remember, we only had certain channels. We had like two, for me, in my market, it was like 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, and maybe channel 13 in the PBS, which was like, the public broadcasting station. And so even through all that, like, I'd watch Dallas, I'd watch Knots Landing, I'd watch cartoons all day long. We had this thing called the after school special, right? It's like once a week, you come in, you'd be like, oh, it's the after school special. And it was always like some teachable moment. But so I think we use a lot of nostalgia because we remember, even in traumatic situations, right? Like, we had a little bit of an outlet, right? So when I had looked in the mirror earlier, because I always wear the shirt, and I'm always like, I love this shirt, but I didn't really I think because it was like really quiet, and I was like, oh, I remember this, right? And I think it's just those things that, I mean, from a human behavioral perspective, we always want to go back to a time or to a situation that we're like, oh, that felt so good. You have a smell, you have a taste, you have something that you experienced in your life. And you think, oh my God, that makes me feel good. Where you have to be careful is don't go, oh, that was good, but everything else sucked. Like, try not to veer off. And you can really use nostalgia to your benefit. Like, you really can use nostalgia to your benefit. It's not on here, but so my son is 27, right? Born in 96. So that's why these are the 90s, where my daughter was born in 07. And there were a few things that I watched with her that I literally was like a fan of, like The Wiggles. The Wiggles. I would sit there and watch it. And my husband would walk in and be like, where's Sienna? I'm like, oh, she's sleeping. Are you unironically watching The Wiggles? I was like, yeah, I'm hot potatoing. Like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. So, Wow Wow Wubsy, like, different things like that. And I think, too, if you use nostalgia and you think about, watch a show, like Three's Company was my jam. I've watched every episode of Three's Company multiple times. It was just my show, right? And it kind of gave me an escape, right? So I think a lot of times what you're using nostalgia. And you're using the nostalgia, but the problem that you have is when you use nostalgia and then you go, I wish it was like this, right? Let's not do that, because you can take that moment of feeling comfort. I don't care what you were watching. I don't care what you were doing. I don't care if it's playing a Rubik's Cube. Well, then go buy a Rubik's Cube. Seriously, order a Rubik's Cube on Amazon and start playing Rubik's Cube. right? Don't let yourself go, oh, this was a good time, but then this. Stay there, because it is scientifically proven in the brain that when you are thinking of a positive, glorious time that you can actually recall, not fantasize about and be like, oh, I bet that would be great. No, no, no. It's going back to something that you can remember. And I've been trying, I crochet and I have yarn and I want to do this. I know you're like, what is she doing? Well, we used to do this thing. It was like called Cat's Cradle. And you do this, and you drop your thumbs and you do all this and you can play games. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to create that. And I'm going to teach my daughter that. And then we're going to do it. Not to go back in time, but to spark nostalgia, right? And when you spark nostalgia, like, have you ever been driving down the road and you smell a barbecue? You go, oh, that food smells so good. But it isn't just the smell. It's the idea of sitting together. It's the idea of, oh my God, that was so fun. I remember we used to play volleyball. And, you go back in those times and you can literally pull on those times during your anxious moments. You can. I do it all the time. It is beautiful because, and what it does too, is it gives your brain kind of a reliever. That's not a word. A reliever that says, I have the capacity of feeling okay because I've done it before. See, a lot of times we forget, right? Like a lot of times you're like, oh my God, I forget. I forget that, because everything's so stressful, right? Like kind of, we all want to grow up. Like we're all like, oh my God, I can't wait to be an adult. And then we get here and you're like, well, I didn't really think that through. That didn't age well, right? And so you get so caught up in the seriousness, is so caught up in the stressors and the traumas and the real life and the bills and all this stuff and relationships that you forget that you have the capacity and the capability of actually feeling comfort. It's like you totally forget it, right? It's kind of like for people who have kids, like I have kids. And during the childbirth, you're like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. Oh my God, this is so painful. It's almost like you remember it being painful, but you forget. Like I have tattoos. It's the same thing. You're like, man, that really hurt. And then before you even leave the place, sometimes you're like, yeah, that really hurt. I wouldn't mind getting another, right? So like we forget things and it's no different. You just forget that you have the capacity, because maybe you haven't done it in so long, to actually feel okay. You literally forget that you have the capacity to do that. And you kind of have the power chip right here. Like you have all the power. You know how you're always giving your power away to all these people? Why? Like, why do we do that? Like, society, other people's voices. And so your head gets cluttered. You get all this chatter and you're like, oh my God, this person says do this. This person says do that. It's like, oh, drink all this water. Okay, well, don't drink too much water. Okay, well, wait, what is it? All right, well, make sure that you're eating this. No, you don't want to eat that. That's bad. What do I do? And that's my life you have to largely figure out. But yes, going through day-to-day life is a challenge. Things are always going to be hard. So why not make things a little bit easier for yourself? Seriously, why don't you make things a little easier? And you have the power to do that. And if you have to put on a shirt, if you have to go to a comic book store, you guys know I'll go to a playground. I will literally go to a playground. When it's nice outside, I'm going to go swing on a playground. I'm 52 years old. I will hop right on there. I don't care if kids are there. I'm going to swing right with you. And we can race to see who goes higher. Because that was a time in all of that turmoil that I actually felt good. Like even if it was just a minute. And so do whatever it is. That's why I crochet, do puzzles, color, go ice skating, go roller skating, take some chalk and draw hopscotch outside. When the weather's good, draw hopscotch, throw your little pebble out there and jump around. Do some jump rope if you can. But don't forget that, sometimes it's coming back to basics is where the magic tool is. It really can be that simple, but we want everything. We want this, oh, I got to see this and it's got to be tangible and I got to be like, I can feel it and I can touch it. Well, you already did. You already did all that stuff. Just don't let yourself veer off and go like, oh my God, that was good, but. Like when you hear that, I was good, but, anytime you go to the but, just come back. Seriously, come back. Because nostalgia can be your biggest asset because it can remind your brain, hey, wait a minute, I can feel okay. And it's going to help you in your gratitude because then you can start going, wait, I remember that feeling. And it's called a transference of energy. So if you can go back in time and kind of remember something nostalgic that was, even if it was just this long, that provided you some level of like peace and joy. If you take that energy and you channel that into your gratitude, it starts to not totally rewire your brain. You're not going to forget everything, but it just gives you a different mindset and it helps you shift perspective. So you know what? Let's spark up some nostalgia because I promise you, you are sitting on so much power and it can be so rewarding. Just remind yourself, it doesn't always have to be that deep and it doesn't always have to be that serious.